Real Virginia is produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Become a Farm Bureau member today.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and all the people who produce the wonderful foods we eat. This month we have great news from the State Fair of Virginia. Plus Andy Hankins offers tips on raising heirloom tomatoes, and Mark Viette has suggestions for dealing with insect problems in your garden. Hello everyone, we are here at Meadow Event Park in Caroline County. It's the site of the State Fair of Virginia, and there's some news coming from here. A major partnership has been formed to ensure that Virginia's State Fair stays true to its agricultural roots. You can't keep a good fair down. After more than 150 years, the State Fair of Virginia went bankrupt last spring. The property at Meadow Event Park in Caroline County, the birthplace of racehorse legend Secretariat, was sold at auction to Universal Fairs in late May. Owner Mark Lovell is an experienced fair promoter and plans to continue the tradition of the State Fair this fall. But many of the agricultural programs and exhibitions have already moved to another site. So the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation has stepped in to buy part of the fair, making sure that it remains the state's top agricultural expo and educational experience.
Agriculture education is so important, especially in this day and age when most Virginians and most Americans really have no contact with the farm. This is a vehicle to continue to showcase agriculture in the state and to show people that it's still an important part of their daily lives.
Farm Bureau was a key sponsor of the previous fair. The state's largest farm advocacy group announced it had purchased 50% share in the state fair in early July. Normally, plans for the annual event are well along by midsummer, so the pressure is on to put together a quality exposition in just a few months. But they're optimistic they can do it.
And really thinking about it, after all, preserving and helping agriculture and promoting agriculture, that's what our mission is at Farm Bureau. Those of you associated with Farm Bureau, our mission statement actually says that. And so I think we just have an opportunity to carry that forward. And I can assure you, every one of you here, we do not take this challenge lightly. This is going to be a challenge for us, but we don't take it lightly, and we plan on making it successful.
We've got a lot of great things lined up, year-round events. We really want to really boost up the equine event here at this beautiful facility, and we're excited about the next year, the 40th anniversary for the Triple Crown Secretariat won back in '73.
Lots of details remain to be settled, but Farm Bureau officials pledge there will be a place for this year's State Fair visitors to pet and see farm animals, plus exhibitions of farm products like giant pumpkins and rabbits, and many other agricultural exhibits that are being developed.
Anyone interested in attending the fair or learning more about it can go to statefairva.org and can get all the information, details about the fair, the shows, the events, the exhibits, anything that's going on out there. It'll be updated weekly right on up until the fair, which begins September 28th and runs through October 7th.
It's a busy and exciting time as the State Fair of Virginia is being reinvented.
Although about 25% of Caroline County's land is occupied by Fort A.P. Hill, the county still has nearly 60,000 acres of farmland. During the colonial period, Caroline County was the birthplace of thoroughbred horse racing in North America. Arabian horses were imported from England to provide the basis for American breeding stock. Today, this scenic Virginia county has 237 farms. Feed grains, beef cattle, as well as a few hogs, sheep, and laying hens are the top commodities. Altogether, agriculture generates $11.5 million in cash receipts in Caroline County.
If you're looking for suggestions to control disease and pests in your garden, look no further than Mark Viette in the garden.
When we experience either very severe or very mild winters, it can allow insect populations or disease problems to really become much more prevalent in the garden. And after a mild winter, we find that insects can really be everywhere in a garden, and many times the insects that we normally would see. And one of the insects that we will find in a garden is called a plant bug. This could be a box elder bug, milkweed bug, and let me just show you what they look like here in the garden. If you look at this plant right here, you can see some of the damage to the leaves done by the plant bug. And if you really want to see the plant bugs, you can just go and look, and they're adults and young, and there's just, you know, tons of them in here, and they suck the juices out of plants. Now you can vacuum them and get rid of them that way, or you can go ahead and use a recommended pesticide according to the label to control, and there's a small one, so they're all over in these plants here. Mild winters also allow for a lot more disease problems in a garden. And looking at this, you know, leaf right here on this hosta, we might say, something chewed the foliage. It looks like slugs. But we turn the leaf over, we don't see any signs of trails for slugs. And as we look at some of the other leaves, we notice a little more browning of some of the spots. Then the brown part dies and falls out, and it looks like an insect or something ate the leaves. Really, it was a disease. And one of the best ways to remember this in a garden is to keep a garden calendar. Maybe even take pictures with your digital camera and file them somewhere, and so they notify you next spring on the computer 5 weeks earlier than when you normally see this in a garden to treat for this. The other thing you can do is pull up all the old leaves, rake up all the old leaves, and get rid of that debris, which reinfects your plants year after year after year. One of the problems that we experience in daylilies is thrip. And this is a very small, tiny insect that as soon as the temperature warms up, it becomes much more evident. And this tiny insect sucks the juices out of daylily flowers and buds, but also affects other plants like hostas, and it's even in your lawn. So if you're treating your daylilies, you sometimes need to treat your lawns. It is very hard to see, and you need to really look closely at the flower and pull the petals apart to find a thrip. But the damage that occurs is going to be flowers which don't open correctly, buds that become twisted and contorted, and that is a sign that you might have thrip. Now, if you look very closely, you almost need a magnifying glass, and you can see these little moving, about the size of a pin tip. And your daylily flowers can be filled with 10 or 20 in each flower alone. And they also spread diseases, just like mosquitoes spreading malaria and things of that nature. And I like to get a magnifying glass, so you can get a magnifying glass and go out in the garden and really see this close up. Really, pre-treatment is a great way to control this. You know, make sure you mark on your calendar that May 1st to start treating for this problem. These are some plants we have not treated, and always follow the label directions. Once you have that gardening calendar, it'll tell you what to do at the right time of the year. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
Up next on Real Virginia, Kendra Bailey Morris has a wonderful tomato recipe for us in the heart of the home.
And we learn about raising heirloom tomatoes from the ground up. Stay with us.
The farm has been in the family for 134 years. This has been my home. It's the only thing I've known.
Growing up on a dairy farm was great. You've got all the opportunities to have fun in the wide open spaces and enjoy working with the crops and the cattle.
It's a great way of life for your children.
I love working with animals.
I believe that the family farm is important in this country, no matter if it's 50 cows or 5,000 cows. A lot of the family farms consume their own products, and they realize the importance of having a good, healthy product.
I am proud that our family and all of us here at this farm at Walkup can be involved in producing nutritious milk for the society. I'm Dan Myers, a fifth-generation dairy farmer from Virginia. I am dedicated to dairy, my cows, my milk, and my land.
We put delicious Virginia tomatoes to good use with Kendra Bailey Morris in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Kendra Bailey Morris, and we're here in the Sur La Table kitchen at their cooking school here in Richmond, Virginia. And we're going to be making a really nice summer salad today. It's a funny name, it's called fattoush, which I think is a really wonderful name to say, fattoush. Fattoush is basically a Lebanese-style salad. That's a mixture of different types of in-season vegetables. In this case, we're going to be working with heirloom tomatoes, such as this accordion tomato, which is really lovely. But we're also going to be adding in some cucumbers, peppers, and onions. And it's going to be tossed in a dressing that has a lot of lemon juice, a little olive oil in it, and typically it's made with sumac, which is an herb that's a spice rather, that's a little bit hard to find. So we're gonna substitute instead some lemon zest. But if you can find sumac, more power to you. You can probably find it at a nearby Middle Eastern grocery store. So the first thing we're gonna do is begin by toasting our pita, and I'm just gonna do it in the oven, although you could definitely do it on the grill. And I'm gonna brush some olive oil on each side. Sprinkle a little salt, not too much because our dressing is going to have a good amount of lemon juice in it, and you don't want to have too much salt when you're working with lemon juice because it can make things taste too salty. These are just going to go in the oven for about at 375 for probably 10-15 minutes, just until they're toasted on both sides. Now what I have in the bowl already is some pressed garlic and just a little bit of salt, a tiny, tiny bit of salt. And to that I'm going to add some fresh lemon juice, a little bit of red wine vinegar. I've got my lemon zest in place of the sumac. Again, if you can find the sumac, even better. That makes it more authentic. I'm going to add some of that in there. And I'm going to give this a whisk. And then slowly, I'm going to add the olive oil. It's called emulsification. So I'm going to add it in slowly. And you can see that while I'm whisking it, I have it on top of a paper towel. This is a nice little trick that keeps the bowl from moving around on the table while you're trying to whisk. It's a good workout. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of black pepper to that. And we're going to set that aside. I've already got some of this accordion tomato chopped up in the bowl, ready to go. And I'm going to add, and this is what an accordion tomato looks like. It's very beautiful. And I'm going to add a little bit of yellow tomato to that as well. And heirloom tomatoes are so wonderful in the summer. We Virginians are very proud of our tomato crops. And you can use any type of tomatoes that you happen to have, and certainly any type of vegetables that you happen to have on hand that are fresh. Anything goes in this. Just the most important part is make sure you have the pita. And we're going to add some cucumber, some green pepper. I've got 1 small onion diced. And finally, we're going to add a little bit of herbs, and you can use any type of herbs that you have on hand. This is parsley with some really nice fragrant mint that I'm going to add in. And then, of course, you can't have a salad without lettuce. So again, any type of lettuce you want to use. Arugula works really nicely in this recipe. In this case, I'm just using romaine. Iceberg is fine too. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a stir. Oh, it smells so good. The mint, you can really smell. It's amazing. And I'm going to give this one last little whirl. And then I'm going to pour a little bit in there just to coat it. You could make this salad ahead of time, maybe about a half hour or so, but I wouldn't leave the dressing on it too long because while the other vegetables will hold up, your herbs and your lettuce will probably begin to wilt. And now, the good part, the pita. And I'm just crunching it in there. Some people like to dice the pita and make it all fancy. I just like to crunch it in there. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So now I'm just going to add this to a bowl and serve. It's really colorful and it's a wonderful way to use up fresh summer vegetables. You can always take a little extra just for a little bit of garnish. And there you have it, a traditional fattoush salad, a Lebanese dish that's very fresh using heirloom tomatoes from Virginia. So for Heart of the Home, I'm Kendra Bailey Morris. Let's get cooking.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafarmbureau.org.
Virginians love their tomatoes, and why not? This delicious fruit is grown throughout the state, but the majority of the tomato acreage in Virginia is located on the eastern shore in Accomack and Northampton counties. Tomatoes are also produced to a smaller degree in the northern neck of Virginia and within Lancaster, Richmond, Hanover, and Westmoreland counties. In 2010, Virginia growers harvested more than 4,800 acres of tomatoes. That harvest produced cash receipts totaling over $52 million and is the 13th largest commodity in Virginia. And Virginia ranks 5th in the nation for tomato production. It's summertime, and there is nothing like going out to your favorite fresh farm market and finding all the wonderful foods we produce: cantaloupes, berries, strawberries, and of course sweet corn. And in Virginia, the local foods movement has sent many a city dweller out to the country, not only to get their favorite fresh foods, but to find out what makes a family farm work.
Even on a rainy summer day, customers flocked to Miller Farms in Spotsylvania County. They came for fresh tomatoes, berries, and what some would call the best sweet corn around. And they came for the experience of buying right from the farmer.
Strawberries in May, sweet corn in the summer, tomatoes in the summer, pumpkins in the fall, blackberries in the summer. A lot of folks want to know why we don't have sweet corn in March, but we tell them you don't want sweet corn in March. You want sweet corn, in June and July and August when it's ready.
Ben Miller and his father Wayne have been in the fresh produce business since 2003, but this land has a long history in agriculture.
Mom and Daddy started farming in the mid-40s, and Daddy started the dairy farm in about 49. And then when I came out of college, it was just a natural succession just to come right on back to the farm.
But there may not have been a farm for the next generation of Millers had this generation not been able to adapt to changing market conditions. Finally, Wayne and Ben had to make the tough decision to sell their dairy herd and turn their focus to produce.
The dairy industry is changing, the economy is changing, and for us to remain in the dairy industry, we would have to have milked a lot more cows, gotten a lot larger, which meant we would have to do a lot of renovations, which would be extremely expensive. And we just felt maybe now was the time to change and go in a different direction.
The first year we bought a lot of produce just to see if folks would come out to the farm to support us. And then each year we've grown more and more produce. And the last 2 years we've bought very little produce, and most of it is grown right here on our farm.
The Millers produce a high-quality product for their customers. They also supply fresh produce to Washington, D.C. restaurants.
So they want to see the farmer and put a face with their produce. And you can't get any closer to it than every day everything is fresh. We pick our corn every day, sometimes twice a day, depending on how fast it sells.
This third-generation farm family is also very environmentally conscious.
A lot of folks think that we're out there just spraying it every day just because they've read that somewhere or seen it somewhere. But it's expensive to do that, and we don't spray unless we have to. If we have to save a crop from bugs or fungus, then we'll do that.
We use nutrient management, and by doing that, we take soil samples and we send them off. That way we know what nutrients we need to add to grow a crop. It's because we do not want to, at the price of ingredients, we do not want to spend more than we need to.
While summers are busy, the work doesn't end for the Miller farm when fall arrives. That's when pumpkin season begins, and they expect to have plenty to choose from before the calendar flips and the cycle begins again. Reporting in Spotsylvania County, I'm Norm Hyde.
I think the next generation has to look to be more efficient, be careful, be conservative, but be aggressive too.
To be a third-generation dairy farmer means a lot. It means that I'm able to keep on the traditions set forth by my parents and my grandfathers.
After I graduated high school, I attended Virginia Tech. I studied dairy science. Upon graduation, I returned home to the farm and was full-time, have been full-time ever since.
Family farms are very important to society in general. It helps allow the consumer to know where the food came from and that it was produced properly and taken care of and able to take it to their dinner plate in a healthy manner.
I'm confident the consumer is getting a good product when it leaves here. All dairy farmers, that is their goal. I'm Forrest Nuckols, a dairy farmer from Virginia, and I'm dedicated to dairy, my cows, my milk, and my land.
We have certainly celebrated the summer tomato, but for home gardeners, growing heirloom tomatoes can not only be easy but interesting. Cooperative Extension Specialist Andy Hankins shows us how to do that from the ground up.
Hi, I'm Andy Hankins. Welcome to From the Ground Up. Today we're at Blenheim Organic Gardens in Westmoreland County, looking at some beautiful varieties of heirloom tomatoes. This variety in front of me is an Italian variety called Cor Debut, which has a different flavor and a different kind of appearance and taste from the tomatoes that many home gardeners often grow. This Italian variety is what we call an ox heart variety, and it is shaped sort of like a heart. It's very flavorful. There's large, vigorous vines. They take about 70 days to mature, and it's just an entirely different fruit than the normal kind of tomatoes that you find at the supermarket. Home gardeners have choices these days of over 4,000 tomato varieties that they can choose from to grow. I'd like to introduce to you Lawrence Latney, the owner and manager of Blenheim Organic Gardens. How long have you been growing tomatoes here?
We've been farming for 12 years, and tomatoes have been a mainstay ever since the beginning.
With the heirloom varieties or any of the varieties of tomatoes that you grow, how do you make your selections as to what you're going to produce?
Well, every year we look through the farm or the garden catalogs and look for seeds we haven't tried before, just to experiment with them. The green zebra that's growing right here is our first year of ever growing that crop, and mainly because it was an attractive photograph in the catalog.
Please tell us about this heirloom variety, Lawrence.
It's a Russian or Siberian variety called black plum. It's as you see, it's just a small plum tomato. This year it's a little bit smaller than normal because we don't have irrigation on these vines. But it's been a tried and true variety for us, and a good example of an heirloom that we found that really works for us. We've grown it for at least 10 years.
And Lawrence, here's another variety. What's the name of this heirloom?
Well, it has the irresistible name of Windsall. It apparently, when it was first introduced, I think in the 20s or so, it was a big hit at state fair competitions.
I see the leaves on this tomato are what I call a potato leaf type of foliage on the tomato.
Yeah.
Would you call this a beefsteak type tomato?
Yeah, I would. It's a consistently large tomato. That's probably on the small size.
I bet a tomato like that would not ship very well, and we wouldn't find it at the supermarket because it doesn't ship and store a long time. Would you agree?
I definitely think so. It's they get really ripe. They don't really take a lot of movement and travel, so they are kind of a local offering.
And consumers can find them at farmers markets and specialty stores and at some restaurants that support local agriculture, can't they?
Exactly.
This has been Andy Hankins from the Ground Up. For more information about heirloom tomatoes and tomato production, contact your local Virginia Cooperative Extension office.
We're so glad you had this opportunity to join us this month. Whether it's from your own kitchen, your home and garden, or our wide open spaces, this is what makes Virginia real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great month.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.